Day 13 of 90. An engineer runs Terraform apply, watches it churn, and deletes a production RDS instance, because the active workspace was default pointed at prod state. No error, no warning, just gone. Terraform workspaces are pitched as the easy way to isolate dev, staging, and prod from one code base. Used wrong, they're a footgun that bleeds prod into dev and collapses your state boundaries. Today we make them safe, what they actually isolate, how to partition state and variables, and the CI guardrail that catches a wrong workspace plan before it ever applies. First, the misconception. People think a workspace is an environment. It isn't. A workspace only swaps which state file Terraform reads and writes. That's it. It does not swap your provider block, your credentials, or your backend bucket. So if your provider authenticates to one AWS account, every workspace, dev, staging, prod, targets that same account with the same keys. Workspaces isolate state, not blast radius. That distinction is the whole lesson. Get it wrong and select the dev workspace gives you a false sense of safety while you're still pointed straight at production. Now let's isolate state properly. In your backend block, scope the state key to the workspace name. In S3, key equals quote, $brace terraform.workspace/terraform.state. Without that interpolation, every workspace writes to the same object and they clobber each other. Add a DynamoDB table for state locking so two applies can't race. Then drive your resource names off locals, env equals terraform.workspace, and bake that env into bucket names, im role arns, and tags. Now staging creates staging app bucket, prod creates prod app bucket, and the state for each lives at its own key. Separate state, separate names, one code base. Next, variables. You do not want prod database sizes leaking into a dev plan. Keep a per workspace tfars file under an envs directory, envs/dev-tfars, envs/prod.tfars, and load it explicitly. Terraform plan var file equals quote env/$brace terraform.workspace.tfars. Each file holds only that environment's values, and critically, no secrets. Wire a pre-commit hook that scans dev and staging var files for anything that looks like a prod credential or ARN, and rejects the commit. The variable file is scoped to the workspace, and the secret scanner makes sure prod material never rides along into a lower environment. Here's the guardrail that actually saves you, CI enforcement. In GitHub Actions, before you ever run apply, read the workspace and assert it matches the branch. Capture Terraform workspace show, then, if branch is main, workspace must be prod, if develop, it must be staging. Mismatch? Exit one and kill the pipeline. That single check is what stops the wrong workspace apply we opened with. Then write your plan to an artifact whose filename includes the workspace name, planprod.tfplan, so the human approving the apply can read the filename and confirm they're approving the right environment. The machine asserts, the reviewer verifies. Protect prod itself. On your critical stateful resources, databases, the state bucket, add a lifecycle block with prevent_destroy set to true, gated so it only hardens in the prod workspace. Terraform will then refuse any plan that would destroy that resource, full stop. It's the last line of defense when an assertion is somehow bypassed. Even a correct-looking apply can't tear down a prevent_destroy resource without you removing the block first. That friction is the point. Destroying prod should require an explicit, reviewable code change, never an accidental apply. Now, when not to use workspaces. Because they share one backend config and one provider, they're great for ephemeral, short-lived feature environments, spin up, test, tear down. They're a poor fit for hard prod versus non-prod isolation. For high compliance setups, use account per environment, separate AWS accounts, separate backends, separate root modules, with a distinct provider and credentials per environment. That way a dev run physically cannot reach prod, because the credentials don't exist there. Workspaces for ephemeral, accounts for compliance boundaries. Mixing those up is the root of most workspace horror stories. Quick checklist before you ship: state key scoped to terraform.workspace, var file scoped per workspace, CI asserts workspace against branch, and prod has prevent_destroy on critical resources. Lock those 4 and a wrong workspace apply gets caught at plan, not in a post-mortem. Day 13 done. Workspaces isolate state, not credentials, so build the guardrails yourself. Subscribe for day 14.